Welcome to the Vault Unlocked by Financielle. It is Laura, and happy Monday if you're listening to this on a Monday. Remember, on a Thursday, you hear all of us all together on the couch, answering, debating, chatting through your dilemmas. And I have to say, we get so many varied dilemmas, some short, some long. Never be scared of sending something in. It doesn't have to be about money. I know that obviously we are a money-focused podcast, but as we always say, so many of the issues that we talk about, money is just a tiny perspective of it, or a tiny element, and so much of it is about us, how we feel, our emotions, our relationships, our work lives, loads of different elements of, this problem that we're having in our life. We have had so many new listeners and app users this past month, and so many of you on a debt-free journey. Remember, people are coming to us for so many different reasons, whether it's they want to learn to invest and grow their wealth in terms of their investments, whether they want to feel better about money, whether they're desperate to buy a home, whether they've ended a relationship and they're having to start again. So many people, though, do come to us at the very beginning where they have this consumer debt that they're so fed up of. So if this is you, you are not alone. We are the debt-free club, or like the ditch debt club. You are in safe hands, and it's a judgment-free zone. We've all done it. Built up stupid debt, built up emergency debt. Who was I talking about this to the other way? I think one of the researchers at the BBC, we were talking about one of the items that I might do. Oh, this is coming up Monday. I'm going to be doing it Tuesday. And things can change. But we were planning to do a bit on 0% cards and being able to switch them. And contrary to what a lot of you financial OGs may think, I do actually like talking about credit cards and the 0%. And I think it's because you can't shy away from the reality of society. You can't shy away from the fact that loads of us, whether it was now or in a past season of our life, built up an awful lot of consumer debt and kind of masked it with these 0% cards. And we've just heard too many times at Financielle, I got a 0% card at 18, and then that's kind of where it started. And for most of us, we end up being fairly lucky in that life doesn't hit us in the time that we then decide I'm going to pay it off. But for lots of people, you play the 0% game, you move it around, you switch it. You feel like you did something, you get excited. I've heard people say it, like an update, like, I switched my 0% card this week. It was coming off, it was going to be flipping onto a 30 and I managed to switch it. I mean, well done, great, but did you pay any of it off? Did you do anything over and above the minimum to kind of get it out of your life? No, you just moved it. And so I always want people to optimize the interest they're paying on their debt and get rid of it. And 0% cards and the phenomenon that is the 0% balance transfer world has really helped lots of people in moments of need. If you've had a sudden job loss, or if you're navigating, how expensive maternity leave is, or fertility treatment maybe, or you've had some ill health and you've got time off work. Not for the bougie things. The bougie things, you can join my club and we can all sit there and go, oh, well, weren't we silly? But for lots of us, the phenomenon of 0% credit was massive, and it really helped to protect us for a period of time. And what can be scary is it flipping off onto, a 30%, and suddenly, the types of payments that you're making, it's just not denting that balance, and that's when the balance goes up. And so on that basis, being able to switch to, I think, this isn't fact checked by the way, but I think the researcher looked and saw, I think I'd seen that Barclaycard actually with a fee or a balance transfer fee might be doing like a 33-month interest free, which is crazy. I mean, that length of time is just so crazy. Whilst it's a great offer and a good period of time to have no interest accruing on the debt, my worry is that someone does that switch and kind of stays in that space and just puts it off. And what you hope is that life doesn't change in the meantime, where next time you try and go for 0%, something's happened to your credit, something's happened to your income, something's happened in the market, and they just say, sorry, no, none available for you. And you suddenly kick on to high interest. So maybe check that out. If you watch Morning Live at home, we're on at about 9:30. And so I'm on Tuesday, which will be tomorrow if you listen to this live, but also it'll be on iPlayer. But just take that as a bit of a safety safety warning when it comes to credit. When you're getting into the debt, make sure you're optimizing those percentages. When you're looking to pay off debt, make sure you're optimizing those interest percentages and getting them as low as possible. But that is literally, it's not even the warm-up run. That's the stretch before the run. You then have to start listing the debts out, building up a budget, creating an excess in your budget to be able to overpay your debts. You need to have an emergency fund to fall back on, even if it's a small one, before you start aggressively overpaying debt. And it's going to be a painful but such a rewarding journey. So if that's you, if you are a newbie and you're battling debt and you want it out your life, you are in the right place, and you are very welcome for forever, obviously, but especially for as long as you want help and support paying off debt. You might also feel weird in your circle. People might be like, why aren't you coming out for dinner? Or why aren't you coming out for the weekend? And why are you not clothes shopping when we're all going clothes shopping? And why are you using that really old foundation that's a really bad colour for you? Oh, because I'm buying nothing new. Because I'm on a debt-free journey and I'm going to smash my debts, and then I will buy the makeup I want to, and I'm going to buy nice clothes, and I'm going to go and eat nice things and do nice things. And in the meantime, I'm going to look forward to doing that again with cash. Also for Laura Life Admin, what have I got going on at the moment? So it's birthday month. It has been birthday month for my middle daughter. And so just once again, sinking funds save lives. I do really struggle with what to get the kids for presents, and especially as they're getting older, a lot of it does circulate around technology. Our little one's 7, so she's still young, and we're still keeping her in the young phase. But she is embracing gamer life. Her big sister does, and so she's totally inspired by her and her cousins, and so she's into the gaming phase. And actually, we debated about what to get her, and we are fortunate enough to have a spare laptop in the family, and so it seemed silly to buy her like a console or a device or something that really we just needed a laptop for. So instead we had loads of fun picking accessories for that laptop. So a really cool case, she'll be able to put stickers on it, a nice keyboard that lights up like a gamer keyboard, and kind of giving her like a little gamer area. But all that still cost money, and to have the birthday fund sat there is super helpful. I remember it being really helpful when I was on a debt-free journey for our eldest, because it just meant that I didn't feel she had to go without. I still was obviously very, very conservative with what we spent on her birthday, but I didn't have that I'm going to have to put this on a card moment. And yeah, I'm really, really grateful for the sinking funds in my life, but especially this month, the birthday one helped to pay for a little party that we did. We didn't do a big party. We just took a handful of friends bowling, and she wanted McDonald's afterwards. I'm like, happy days. Yeah, I'm glad you said that over some of the other outlets that you could have gone to. I think I even offered her like the local Italian in the village, which is gorgeous, but actually pay for 10 of us to go there would have been a lot more expensive than what she wanted, which was what her friends did for a different party, and they all want the same, don't they? So yeah, that was like guilt-free birthday investment. But also, I was also conscious that holidays are approaching for some people. So we're not going away in May, and the May half term, quite a few people are. And I can imagine that you're gearing up for, what am I packing and what do I have and what do I need to buy? And actually, Holly, she may have talked about this on the vault, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. But this also could have just been in a Financielle chat, because I forget what we say on camera and what was just like our team meeting. But she was talking about, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that. And she actually just put some time aside to look in her wardrobe, and she's going to Greece for a week. So it's like, it's a finite amount of time. It's a week. And, she's lucky enough to go on holiday quite regularly. So she does have a good collection of holiday clothes. But, if you were letting Instagram be your stylist and your style inspiration, you would need the colour of the season, the bag of the season, the shoes of the season. And anyway, she did a really good review and got stuff out, and she was like, my wardrobe is really good, and it all is like a jigsaw, it all fits together. And she was like thanking her past self. I think she'd put effort in the past to create a wardrobe, especially a holiday one, that is so interchangeable. We're thinking like beiges and whites and blacks, maybe some browns. And whether that's a combination of like vests and nice shorts, or like nice shirts and shorts, there are so many different ways that you can build those combinations in. And she'd already done that work. And it's just going to make packing so much easier, especially when some nights, so you say some evening shorts, you might wear them for literally like 3 hours. Once you've got changed for dinner and you've gone to dinner and then you decide on an early night or whatever, you've just like literally not worn them. So the idea that you could have some like nice looks, black cotton or silk shorts, and then wear them the next day during the day, or wear them another evening with a different top, you just do it and don't overpack, because it's less of a stress when you're packing, and more importantly, you don't have to go and buy a summer wardrobe. But on that, we do have trips coming up. Like we've got a trip in June, and then the summer will be upon us late July and August, and that's when we go for our trips. And it's just being conscious of that. Like this is the time where people will break their money journey and their money plan to put things on credit card, whether it's like the car parking that you didn't think of, or the transfer and booking that taxi and you have to suddenly get an Uber, or now's the time to ask, your friend or your neighbour or your parent and say like, would you mind taking us to the airport, and kind of give them a promise back that you'll do the same. Those kind of things can really start to add up financially in anticipation of a holiday or a break. So if you're lucky enough to be going away somewhere this year, whether that's in this country or elsewhere, just have a think about what it's going to cost, what's left to pay, and what's in your travel sinking fund. I want you to be aggressive on your money journey, but I don't want you using credit. So it could be a good time to readjust, coming up to the next budget, or, not be as aggressive with your excess if it's going to the pot that you're definitely going to be using. So on that note, I'm going to jump into a question that we've had. Fascinating question actually on premium bonds. So Zoe says, hi ladies, I have a quick question, not a full-on dilemma, so probably more suited to the Vault Unlocked. Loving the 2 pods a week, by the way. Well, Zoe, we took your steer on this. You definitely suggested probably the right thing, that I could have a little chat about premium bonds, and so here we are, and you're welcome on the 2 pods a week. I definitely feel the Vault Unlocked. Like when I was preparing for this one today, it felt like I was preparing for a team meeting. It was like reviewing like how people have done in the community, and how, how many new users we've got, and what their, motivation for joining us is, and some of the wins in community, and some of the dilemmas that we've got lined up. And it feels like I'm preparing for a team meeting. So welcome to Team Financielle, and I'm pleased that you asked your question. You've said, my question is around premium bonds. I feel like they've had a real popular moment on social media recently. I don't know if I'm being really silly, but I can't see how earning no interest on the very slight chance that you might win some money is better than guaranteed interest in a high interest savings account. Am I being silly? Would love to know your thoughts, if you think they're worth it in some cases, or if it's a bit more of fun, as surely it's something you'd need a lot of money to put into to even stand a chance. Zoe, this is such a great question. And actually I cover it a little bit on Morning Life from time to time, because premium bonds have like such a history, don't they? I feel like lots of us could relate to grandparents and parents been talking about premium bonds. So for those people not from the UK, or just that don't really know what premium bonds are, they're kind of a savings product. So they are offered by the UK government's National Savings and Investments, so NSNI. And like we said, they don't pay interest. And your principal investment in premium bonds, like the money that you put in, is very safe. It's considered very safe because it's backed by the UK Treasury. So it's actually a government organised scheme. And so if you think about taking £10,000 and putting it into premium bonds rather than a high interest savings account, there are a couple of factors to consider. So yes, with premium bonds, there's no guaranteed interest. You could put £10,000 in and never make a return. So your capital won't go lower, but you don't earn interest. Instead, you're entered into a monthly prize draw. Now, there is what's called a prize fund rate. So when I checked it at May, it was 3.8%. Now, that's dropped from 4% in January, which perhaps reflects the cuts to the Bank of England base rate during that time, because we had a cut in February and a cut more recently a few weeks ago. But it can be treated a little bit like an interest rate if you were trying to calculate your potential return. So you may be thinking as well, like, what are the chances of winning? Now, the odds of winning any prize are 22,000 to 1 per £1 that you hold. Most prizes are small, so there's more than one prize. There's usually, there's a big jackpot prize, I think, of £1 million, but that's completely rare. Most prizes are small. They tend to be like around £25. Now, there's a few factors here. Premium bonds are 100% backed, as I said, by the UK Treasury, so essentially by the UK government. All prizes are tax-free. So if you think about that, that could appeal to a higher rate taxpayer who would otherwise pay tax on savings interest if they'd kind of maxed out their ISAs. But guaranteed savings accounts often pay more. At the moment, there are still some fixed rate accounts offering 4.5%, which is guaranteed interest. It's consistent, it's predictable, definitely better for the compounding of your savings. But there's just something quite romanticised, I think, about premium bonds, maybe even nostalgic. You know, they're seen as a bit of fun. It's a bit like a savings lottery, but it's not like playing, you know, the big lottery, which is just, you know, a ridiculous rate of not being, definitely never going to win it kind of odds. Some like the idea of winning big whilst keeping their money safe. It's like you can have a foot in each camp, and you can also access your money at any time without penalties. And I've seen a few people talking about them on social media as well. I've specifically on TikTok, if that's what you're talking about, Zoe. And I think I've scrolled a couple of times and gone, really? Okay. Didn't really. Maybe NS&I are trying to get down with the kids and promote premium bonds. Maybe, I mean, in fact, it wouldn't surprise me at all if their demographic is much older and that a lot of younger people maybe don't see the benefit of them. I mean, don't forget as well, if you have been bought them and you have them, remember, it's like a bank account. It is your money. You can choose whether to leave it in there or, you know, I'm not saying pull it out and do fun things with it necessarily, but you can use it in your money strategy. So if you preferred to put them in like a fixed rate saver or a regular saver or invest it or add it to a house deposit, you know, premium bonds are fair game. It's essentially like cash in a bank account. So you could have been bought some premium bonds for like a birthday or a Christmas, and I don't know. It's a personal thing, right? I'm not telling anyone what to do at all. But I don't do premium bonds. I hate the concept of gambling. I hate lotteries. I never gamble. I just don't like the feeling. I don't like not winning. So obviously, like I use the G word, the gamble, very, very loosely here. Premium bonds is not that. But I don't like the excitement of potentially winning big. I just like to know what I'm getting and be able to crack on and not stress or worry about it. But this is a personal view. I'm like that then. So I'm like, oh, I just would hate if I never won. I'd get so annoyed, whereas I know I get a return. So yeah, I have seen more of it on social. So maybe they're trying to go after the younger generation. Like I said, it's fairly reliable and safe as far as your initial capital, and returns just depends because it's literally, you know, a prize draw. So it's not a silly question at all. But premium bonds don't typically beat savings accounts for pure returns. They're safe, they're fun for some, but they're not the best home for all of your money, especially if you're chasing growth. Okay, next up, we've got a long one, right? So this is a win-win-win that made our absolute bloody day. It just really did. It really helps to bring together why we do this pod, why we have Financielle, why the community is so amazing, and how amazing you're all doing. So this is a follow-up. So there was a dilemma sent into the vault a few weeks ago and we aired it and we talked through it, and it was a listener in a long-term child-free relationship, and she was wondering whether her and a partner should consider marriage purely for practical and financial protections. She was living in her partner's home and she covered bills and she was rebuilding her finances. And she was asking whether taking steps like getting wills or sorting out your pensions or even possibly getting married would make sense to try and safeguard their future together. And, you know, we had a whole lot to say on it. And, you know, in true Financielle style, we try to be pragmatic, but we're super honest. And I think everyone always, I hope that it always comes across that it's with love. It's like your big sister kind of telling you probably what other people in your life might not tell you. And it's about the ability for you to be objective. And if you only ever have people that are yes men in your life, you're never going to see a different perspective. So we gave our perspective on it and she wrote back in. So I'm going to read it out. Hi girls, I'm loving all of the content lately, and in particular the Unlocked series, which helps keep me on track between the main episodes. On the last pod, you asked for updates, so here's mine. I'm the girl who was featured on the Valentine's episode who didn't want to get married, but was considering practical ways to protect myself financially for the future. Thank you for giving me some interesting ideas. I really appreciated your comments and the healthy skepticism about my setup. While we still don't see ourselves tying the knot, I've made some personal changes over the last 3 months to feel more secure, thanks to Financielle. Are we ready? Right. She's numbered them, so this is very exciting. Number 1. In the March Free Wills month, I stopped avoiding it and set up my will. I love that it clearly states who I'd like my estate to be left to, and the percentage is split between beneficiaries. The cool part was being able to leave specific gifts and messages for loved ones. And I feel a lot lighter for sorting this out as a legally single person with no children. There can be no arguing about my assets when I'm gone. So first up, massive adulting behaviour. For those that may or may not know, in March we did a legacy week, which was focused on getting you to do these things that we put off. Sometimes we put off because we are busy and we can't be bothered. Sometimes it's because it's overwhelming. Sometimes it's because the subject matter is overwhelming, like facing obviously your own mortality. And sometimes it's because we just got a lot on. And we felt that if we had this like collective group, if I jump in the water, you jump in the water kind of peer pressure to say, we're all doing it this week, we're all going to get these things sorted out this week, then it might make it more easier on people that are struggling. They don't feel like they're the only one doing it. They're the only one sat at home thinking, if I was to pass away tomorrow, where would my assets go? Like, that is an overwhelming thought. And it's this balance between overthinking it and actually it being very, very present in your mind for a long, long time, very overwhelming, versus just doing it and then that being sorted. And then until the point that you need to review it again, you've nailed it. And so we partnered with Octopus Legacy, who will probably do the free wills month again. Sometimes it's in October and March, so keep an eye on that. But for the price that one of these wills costs, honestly, you can have a little look. There's still our partner. You can have a look at the link in bio, click and just explore it. You could even play around with it as far as you wanted. And then if you don't want to proceed, don't proceed. But just have a look at what it feels like. It's a really, really super easy interface, gradual clicks all the way through, holding your hand, doing it. And it helps to sometimes show you what you need to think about. And if you need to get answers to more questions before you fully complete it, then you've played around with it. But it's really cost effective and, it's really, really good for straightforward arrangements. If you have a more complex arrangement, I would highly recommend seeing a wills and trust lawyer. It is one of the things that people are so funny about. Things cost money, right? So when you are on a debt-free journey and you don't come from a lot of money and you don't have a lot of money, the idea of paying for this kind of professional tool or professional advice, if you go to see a solicitor, seems just out of reach for you. It's a little bit like when people are thinking about maybe a financial advisor or maybe a mortgage advisor. And the amounts of money that we are talking about, or the potential risk that we are talking about in proportion to a fee, a small fee, an ongoing fee, depending on the product we're talking about. I sometimes wish I could present that a bit more vividly in front of someone's eyes. Do you like a whoopsie sticker or like a Nectar offer or a Tesco club card meal deal? Like when it's in your face and it's showing you the saving, we're just much more likely to do it. But to get this like fee for a will and you're like, oh, I'll just get on to doing it, and that's probably a bit expensive. Like, I don't really need one, or like a lawyer's quoted me 500 quid and I just don't think I can afford it. And then, God forbid, there is an argument over hundreds of thousands of pounds a few years later and you didn't pay the 500 and you didn't see the professional because you've got like a particular type of family. You've got a blended family. You've got disputes in your family. You've got people with health issues. You've got people with just a load of different complex arrangements that we see, and people do nothing. And so it's like major adulting to save up and pay for one of these professional products that once you've paid for it once, really, unless your situation changes massively, it shouldn't be a big deal. And you're with us, you're with Financielle. Like, my goal is to get you to a place where if once every 5 years you're paying £500 to a lawyer to make sure that your will is in order and your lasting power of attorney is in order, if you want one of those as well, and that you're paying for really good independent mortgage advice, and that you're paying for the right financial planning that you need in your life if you're the right candidate for that. I just wish I could show like the savings. If you think about the mortgage, this is the biggest asset that you'll probably buy in your life. I don't know if you've ever done that, where you get a mortgage offer and it's like, say it's a 30-year term and you borrow in 200 and the actual amount that you pay back is like more than 100 grand more than that. And you're just thinking, what on earth? And so to get the right quality advice and the right product can have an impact on how many hundreds of thousands more than you borrow you actually end up paying back. And so if that was on a whoopsie sticker, I feel like we'd all be grabbing it. But when times are tough and we don't have the money, it's really hard to pay for value, and it's really hard to pay for the important thing. With that being said, I think the point here is well done for biting the bullet and grabbing those wills while they were free. But if you're listening to this and you're in that situation and you aren't protected, just go check out the link in the show notes with Octopus and just go explore that process, or go and find a local independent solicitor, even just have a 10-minute chat with them. They do free consultations, and you can get an idea of what it would cost and what protection you get. But get a will. Definitely get a will. Now, if you remember, I said we're in numbers. We're now up to number 2. Number 2, I transferred some old pension pots to PensionBee and have set up beneficiaries both here and with my current pension provider. I guess without this, I'd have no control over where this money ends up either. Yes, and again, well done for biting the bullet and making that change. We've got lots of content in the app about whether you should consolidate your pensions or not and what you should be thinking about, and it can be overwhelming. I personally did consolidate my pensions with PensionBee years ago because I liked them as a platform. At that time, I definitely didn't want to do any heavy lifting with my investments. I wanted the robo-advisor to advise me in proportion to my risks and my interests, and so I do have a more purpose-driven plan with PensionBee, which is something else that you can do. But the bigger thing was bringing everything together and not having a million logins. As you know, I like to track my net worth once a month. And so the fact that I have like one current work pension and then my PensionBee pensions, which is all my past ones all lumped together, just gives me peace of mind and makes me focus on the numbers a lot more. Consolidating and combining your pensions isn't right for everyone. It does depend on the type of pensions that you have, whether it's a good idea to do that or not. So it's worth having a little think about if you think it could help you mentally to do that. But also importantly, what she says is check who the beneficiaries are. So every pension has a beneficiary listed on it, and you have to make sure that that beneficiary aligns with who you intend that pension to go to. So super important to go and check that out on your past pensions. Again, probably another reason why consolidation from an admin perspective is really helpful. And you can log into these portals and check, because imagine if it's at the moment being given to someone that you don't want it to go to. So make sure you check who the beneficiaries are on all your pensions, and like mention that to your friends and family, mention it to your parents. If you're doing it, you can say, I'm doing this, like FYI. This is also true of death in service benefits at work. So if you might have worked at the same place years and you might get a really good death in service benefit if something were to happen. That could have like an ex listed on it, for example. Imagine if, you were the one having to handle this grief and manage what's going on, and then suddenly, actually, the ex gets the death in service. Do you know what? I got a flashback to then when Carrie finds out that Big's ex-wife was given $1 million in the will. I feel like we never probably got to the bottom of why that was, or maybe it's slipped my memory, but yeah, that was a moment, that was a scene. I might go back and watch that. Yeah, I might go back and watch that. So on that, WhatsApp your girlfriends, WhatsApp your friendship groups, WhatsApp your family WhatsApps, and be like, FYI, I've been adulting, or I'm going to adult, and I'm going to make sure that I know who the beneficiaries are on my pensions and my death in service. Literally, this is one of those things that'll take such a small amount of time, but we overthink how long it'll take. I reckon you could do it like walking to the bus stop, or whilst you're kind of waiting for the kettle to boil, or like, I really don't think it'll take a long time. Okay, number 3, just even more proud. I've unlinked myself from my ex-partner on my credit file and closed some old accounts that I have forgotten were still open. You are cleaning up on this life admin, Missy. I have you're putting me to shame, and I feel like I need to make a to-do list and do easy things and take them off to feel better. So that's super important. Looking at our credit file, loads of ways to get a free credit report. You don't have to pay. You don't have to do trials for stuff. Just ignore these websites that are trying to sell you stuff. You can just look at your credit file and you can see if you are financially linked to someone. And the like I said, the worst case scenario, I mean, if you're on a mortgage with your husband, like, you're going to be linked to them. You can unlink if you are jointly on a product with someone. But if you in the past have had like a current account or a savings account where you're both on, but it's like a bit dormant and you're not really using it, or it's not been formally closed down, or whatever it is, it will show you as connected to a linked person. And firstly, you want it to be correct, so you should be delinking. But secondly, you have no control over how they manage their finances, especially if they were a bit of a shit show and you kind of get a vibe for it. you don't want to be connected to anyone in that way. I'm so glad that you've looked into getting that taken off. And again, closed all old accounts that you forgot were still open. So many people have these like zombie accounts just wandering around, and we've like forgotten we were even a part of that bank or had that card open or had that loan. Just get them closed, because especially if it's got credit available on it, you just never know. Someone could potentially run up credit in your name and there's just no need for it to be open and there, and it can impact, your credit report as well. So get those closed down, but well done. Again, tidy up your file. It will improve your pretend credit score. Do not get tempted to take out credit products when you're on these websites. That is how they make money. So the next one, number 4, you say next off the list is to look into some income protection and life insurance, but one step at a time. You have already wildly overachieved, so well done. But I think it's really wise to think about doing this next. Starting with a will was a good one though, because if you think about it, you can sit and work out all the what ifs. It's like scenario A. If I die, what would you do? What would you get? If you died, what would you get? Actually, if we were poorly or if we'd hurt ourselves and we couldn't work for a period of time, how would we keep this whole ship going? It really, really increases, and the dependence on each other increases when we start to buy bigger properties together, have children together, kind of become codependent. And again, like I said, it might not be that you ever have children, but you become codependent on each other, and marriage might not form a part of that. And so whilst you've got the will sorted, you may not have loads of assets. And so thinking about it in that way and pricing up the different types of protection insurances, and let's use life insurance as an example, it does give that peace of mind that if you both got policies on each other for a certain amount and you can decide what that amount is, it's peace of mind money, and it's also cheaper the younger you are. So if you anticipate in the future buying homes together, and if you anticipate becoming more codependent, and if you anticipated having children, whatever it is, that insurance would have been cheaper buying it today than it is in 10 years' time when you decide to be more intertwined financially, for example. And so for a real cost-effective amount, the younger that you are, you can look to get this peace of mind insurance. The best thing I did with this was definitely getting on the phone and chatting it through. You can get on a conference call and you can all get on the call together and explain like what your life's like and where you're up to, and have someone objectively, like, again, we partnered with LifeSearch because we didn't want anyone selling and it being icky, and it being very, very proactive. You can ask for a female advisor as well if you'd like a female advisor. We found that quite a lot of people do like that. It's no judgment to the guy advisors. They're amazing as well. But it just feels this safe space to have this open and transparent conversation, whether it's you as a couple, whether it's you individually, to say, this is my life. This is like what my budget has as well. Like I can't afford loads right now. I might afford more in the future, but what can I get to get what I call my peace of mind protection for this budget, and work with someone. So I love that that's on you mind next, but don't overthink it. Jump on the phone and have a chat with a professional about what your needs are. And again, if you go to financielle.com/protection, you can find our partner who are amazing and have looked after lots of our amazing community. And lastly, you say, one of the concerns raised on the episode was about not being able to build for my future while living in my partner's house. I feel the same, and I'm turning this around ASAP too. I currently pay around 10% of my income to him as rent, which I appreciate is very low, so I've been able to aggressively pay down debt. In June, I will make my last ever consumer debt payment, which is a 20 grand loan fully paid off. Next step, aggressively tackle the last bit of student loan and get myself into build as soon as possible. Thanks for giving me the push to sort my shit out. You have just closed with a mic drop, which is being nearly debt free, so close to it. And then you've got the last bit of student loan that you're going to clear off, and then you're in build, and build is building that bigger emergency fund. And as soon as you have done that, that is when, and I think we talked about this on the pod, you can have those like bigger next step moments. Like, we think it's fine for you to be, effectively a mini tenant in your partner's home, just so long as you are not taking that like financial saving and going, woo, let's go shopping, let's go on holidays, let's go out. You don't overpay to him. Like, he's made that decision that you're not doing things together and you're not owning this together. You can make a contribution to things, but the contribution needs to be low enough so that you can deploy money into investments and into your own house deposit fund if you wanted to buy property in the future, or the next property that you buy together. And I think that's the point we like to make. We like to say there's nothing wrong with having these arrangements where one person owns the house and has the right protections on that, and doesn't have someone having claim to their home, but the other person has a plan and doesn't just kind of, freeload's the wrong word, but kind of coast and think, oh, this is a good deal, fine. And then actually in the background, they've not been using that opportunity to build up wealth for them, which again, if you stay together, can be brought together later. So you are nearly there. Very excited to get you into build. Please, this is a series you need to come back and tell us when you've sorted out your insurances and when you are debt free. I'm expecting that very, very soon so that we can then plan together and look at your build. And lastly, just before I go, I wanted to give a shout out to those people in the app that are doing their net worth. The net worth tracker is one of the most strategic tools that you can use for your money, because the budget tool is amazing and everything, all roads lead to the budget, obviously. And that can help you plan and direct your money. But what do we do with our excess in that budget? We put it towards things that grow our net worth. And there's only a handful of things that, according to the Financielle tracker, will do that. So putting money into savings will do that. Using that money to overpay your debts will do that. Putting money into your pension, paying your mortgage. All these things make that beautiful pink graph go up in the right direction. And that is true if you are a multimillionaire or if you have a minus net worth. Okay, so many of you are not doing the net worth calculation because you tell me you don't have enough. And that's nonsense. You have to start somewhere. And actually, the best graphs look the best when you start off with not a lot anyway, because the only way is up. So to track this long-term journey and to start somewhere is really important. And so this is your rallying call that if you're not tracking that net worth, please do. If you are struggling with it, please drop a question to the community, ask us something confidentially. Lots of people are inspired by other people doing them. And so there's one, for example, from Nicole a few days ago. I started using Financielle literally this month and following the playbook. It's already increased. Super good work, Nicole. And again, it can actually change quite quickly, quite early, by changing the way that you manage money and focusing on things like building up an emergency fund, focusing on things like overpaying your debt. Kelly put 200% increase in 2 years. During this time, I paid off all my debt and I'm currently saving for my deposit, all fully solo. Absolutely killing it. And that graph is a reflect, and there's lots of dots on that graph which shows how long you have been doing it for, which means we've got over 24 months of data. But it just shows you the progress that you can make, especially when times are tough, you are tracking it, you feel like all your money's in sinking funds and you feel like you've not got a lot of choices, you feel like your budget's a bit tight, and then you do that once a month and you go, okay, this is why I'm doing it. I am making progress. It might not feel like it when I open my current account, but actually I'm in a much better place and I'm making amazing progress. We had Hannah, who actually was inspired by the post, and she then said a couple of days ago, I braved my net worth calculation today as I haven't done it since January, and we all know what the stock market has done since a certain someone took over. Amen, Hannah. Yeah, I've been in your shoes as well. My pension, lifetime ISA and stocks and shares ISA have all taken a hit as I'm invested in 100% equities, but I've managed to offset it by my mortgage overpayments and my cash ISA that I've also been squirreling away into. 1.1% growth in 4 months isn't a lot, but it's actually more than I expected. Plus, I started tracking in August 2023 and I'm up 55% since then. So Hannah was someone who hadn't done it in a little while, was inspired to do it, went in there, did it. And I was the same. I was like, for God's sake, why can this man just stop messing with all of our lives and all the lives of our friends in the US and et cetera, et cetera. But it is, in a few years' time, I'd like to think that we look back at this political blip and, just accept that it's one of the dips that we've had alongside, I really have rode the wave of some high returns. Because of your age, depending on your age, you are invested in more riskier things the further away from retirement you are. And so when Hannah says she was invested 100% in equities, I suspect, and you can correct me, Hannah, if I'm wrong, but you've chosen to actively do that because you can have, portfolios that are put together based on your risk appetite, or you can have default ones which are put together based on your age, and therefore they choose the risk relative to your age. So the closer to retirement you are, you have less volatile assets in your investments. The more further away you are, the more volatile that you tend to be put in because you've got time for it to correct. But it sounds like Hannah's actually gone in and created, where she's literally gone into a platform, for example, like Trading 212, where you can say, I want my things in these areas, in these proportions. And she said 100% equities, please. And so, yeah, I can imagine that you've tried to ignore it. But the other things that you're doing, the paying down of your mortgage debt, the putting money into a cash ISA, ironically has offset those losses. And what we hope is that as things calm down, that the equities do come back. And that's why an investing strategy that's just consistent and not trying to time a market and is balanced and diversified by the fact that you're also invested in property, and ultimately is done on a cushion of resilience. It's done on a cushion of being consumer debt free and having an emergency fund. This is why this whole thing is like a jigsaw and all of the pieces fit together specifically. And to not do one element of it doesn't complete the jigsaw. And who would like that? On that note, I think we'll leave it there. Please do tell me about your net worth calculations. Messaging, DM, email thevault@financielle.com. Any random questions, any lengthy questions, send them all to us and we will try to work them out between our sofa chats with the girls and with my solo chats on Unlocked. Have the best few days before we speak to you on Thursday. And just a quick favour, wherever you are listening to this, it really, really helps us if you subscribe or like it, if there's the ability to like it. Tell someone about it, because you never know, you could forward this on to someone who's going through something, and one of the things that we happen to mention just picks them up and gets them motivated on their journey. So get it in the WhatsApp groups. Everyone needs, it's the nice weather now, we're all getting our steps in, we're all getting fresh air, we need things to listen to while we're doing that, and let's grow the vault by Financielle. Thanks guys, I'll see you on Thursday. Just a quick disclaimer, the Vault Unlocked is a light-hearted chat around life and money. We are not giving financial advice. Bye bye.